Hey everyone, this is John Dickinson from MotionWorks. Welcome back to the After Effects Effects A to Z series. In this tip we're going to be taking a look at the beam effect. Now to apply beam, let's first make a new composition. I'll name this beam and a new solid. I'll name this beam. Make sure it's comp size. And we choose beam from the generate menu. Beam. Now this is a pretty simple effect. There's only a few parameters in here. Let's just take a quick look at them. The first is the starting point, and you can move the starting point by dragging the numeric values. Same for the ending point, or you can drag the control points here directly in the comp. Next is length, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Just changes the length of the beam. But length also works with time. Now you use time to move the beam between the start and the end point. You see I can move it backwards and forwards. I can also change the starting thickness, and just undo that, and the ending thickness, and the softness. It's all pretty simple. And the inside and outside colors. Now down here we have a checkbox for 3D perspective, and this works in conjunction with the length and the time. Now by default it's on. Let me just drag the time here, and you can see we've got a kind of 3D perspective going on where it seems as if this point here is further into the distance. If I turn this off, look at the difference. Now it seems to be only moving in the X and the Y. So 3D perspective gives you that sense of Z depth, which is kind of handy. And last of all, there's the composite on original. So you turn this on if you want to see the footage below this solid. Now there's one example on Creative Cow, the Sci-Fi Classics tutorial by Aaron Stern. You can see some beams in here. There's also the classic lightsaber by Andrew Kramer over on Creative Cow. You'll also find that on Video Copilot. And if you want to learn a little bit more about beam, you can read it here in the After Effects CS4 online help. There isn't much information here, and it doesn't talk about all the parameters. Notice that it's 8-bit, 16-bit, and 32 bits per channel. It also mentions that when you're making the beam shoot, when you're shooting it using the time parameter, it looks best when motion blur is enabled and the shutter angle is at 360. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of different ways to use beam. I was playing around and I thought one good use for it might be to create these Klieg lights. And to do that, all I did was create one beam and adjust the softness right down to 0. You might prefer it a little soft. I turned off 3D perspective, and all I did was animate the end point. So I moved the start point down here outside the comp and animated the ending point just backwards and forwards. And then duplicate the effect and make sure to press composite on original so we can see both effects. And it has the same keyframes, but I just offset them slightly and then just change the values just slightly. And also change the start point for the duplicate so that the lights cross over one another. So this is a pretty cool effect, and it would be a little bit more difficult to make this using, masks on solids or shape layers. Here it's handy because you've got these effect control points. And you might want to use this as a matte to reveal a layer, or just as a graphic element. Now another example, which is very handy, is using a simple expression. Now this expression was taught to me some time ago by Dan Ebbets. I had a situation where I had a kite and I wanted to have a string on the kite, and Dan suggested I use the beam effect and use this very simple expression. What's happening is the starting point of the beam is being linked to the anchor point of the logo layer. And wherever the logo's anchor point moves, so does the starting point of the beam, which is very cool. You can see it's moving on Z and it's still following the anchor point. Okay, so that's the beam effect. Hopefully you found that handy. I'll include this project file so you can grab these projects if you want them. For now, this is John Dickinson from MotionWorks. Have fun, be creative, and I'll see you in the next tip.